2 Timothy 4:7. Paul's the old guy giving advice to the young guy, Timothy. And he says, fight the good fight, finish the course, keep the faith. And I tell folks, I love that verse because of the action in it. Because of the word. Americans aren't timid folks. They're people of action. And the words in that verse, fight, finish, keep, I think fit the American spirit. Americans expect their government to fight for them. They expect us to finish our work. And they expect us to keep faith with the principles and values that made us the greatest nation ever. Made us the nation that could go from the Wright brothers to Neil Armstrong. That's what we have to keep in mind. And that's the kind of attitude I think we got to have. The quickest way to get all this working is to get a speaker elected. That's what I hope we can do today. I'll take your questions.
He's in, gang. That's Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan, Jim the Great, going all in, ready to fight the good fight for the speakership. And it's all because of you. You did that. You put a stop to that absurd attempt by RINO sellouts to put that pipsqueak interim speaker McHenry permanently in. You crushed that. And as a result, Jim Jordan is, as of this morning, all in. The third vote is happening right now as we speak. I'm keeping tabs of it live. Please let us know in the comments below if you get any developments while I'm going off on some soapbox moment. It looks like it's going to go all throughout the weekend into next week if necessary, and to test to see just how bitter, how petty, how pathetic the donor class supported RINO establishment wing of the Republican Party really is, but it's also a show in strength and power from MAGA forces. And if the latest polls on Trump, particularly in swing states, are any indicator, we are stronger than ever. You're going to absolutely love this. Greetings, everyone. It is Live Stream Friday. I am your host, Dr. Steve, your patron professor, here to help you to think better so you can feel better in these crazy and turbulent times. So if you have any doubts, you know what to do. Make sure to smack those bells and subscribe buttons on both YouTube and Rumble. We are live on both YouTube and Rumble. Super chats, super stickers are up. Send me your questions. I will answer them in due course. We're going to see the latest on the fight for the speakership, most especially how all of you thwarted a coup attempt by establishment RINOs, Republicans in name only, that where they were going to team up with the Democrats. You thwarted that. I'm going to show you how, and we're going to see how President Trump continues to absolutely crush it in the polls as bumbling Biden just collapses into a political oblivion. All that and more. Live Stream Friday. Again, super chats, super stickers up. Send me your questions. And before we do anything else, gang, we do have a very concerning development that's happening with regard to central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. Now, you may have noticed that up until now, the digital dollar or central bank digital currency has been little more than a headline. But right now, as we speak, things are developing at an alarmingly rapid pace. It started with a sweeping executive order from the Biden administration. Now, central banks are even hiring for their development. And here's the thing. A digital dollar, when all said and done, means centralized control. It could be used to track your purchases, control what you buy, and even seize or freeze your assets like we saw with the Freedom Convoy. And that's why it's so critical that you protect your money with precious metals like gold and silver. I partnered with the top-rated precious metals company, Goldco. They've helped patriots move over $1 billion into the timeless value of gold and silver, and now it's your turn. Right now, they're giving you up to $10,000 in free silver while supplies last. Plus, all qualified callers this week receive a free Ronald Reagan silver coin. So don't wait. Click on that link below right now and do what countless patriots are doing. Make sure to never let bumbling Biden ever have full control over all your money. Go to the link below to learn how you can get started today. All right, gang, let's dive right in here. What you just saw in that clip from Jim Jordan's press conference at 8 a.m. this morning was itself a massive victory for MAGA forces. As many of you know, after Jim Jordan lost the second round of votes to become speaker, there was an attempt, a literal coup attempt, by the sniveling, swampy, bitter, pathetic neocon Republican establishment to work together with their fellow uniparty Democrats to install permanently the Speaker pro tempore, Patrick McHenry, who, of course, wasn't even elected. He was merely appointed. But they're so bitter that their swamp rat, Kevin McCarthy, was ousted. Their donors were so pissed off at that they apparently told Jim Jordan, these 20 RINOs, 22 RINO Republicans, in name only, of course, they told him there's no way they're going to vote for him, ever. The only thing they'll ever agree to at this point is to install, with expanded powers for the foreseeable future, this pipsqueak loser Patrick McHenry, the Speaker pro tem. And it looked like these slime balls were going to get away with it. It looked like they were going to succeed. Reports started circulating that Jim Jordan said fine, that he was indefinitely suspending his quest to be Speaker, and that he was going to back McHenry, which, I mean, he's considered by anyone and everyone really to be one of the worst establishment swampy RINOs in Congress. In many respects, he makes McCarthy look MAGA by comparison. But here is what's so absolutely glorious in all of this. When word got out that this sellout deal looked like it was going to succeed, MAGA forces unleashed hell. Here's how Florida firebrand Matt Gaetz came out of the gates when it was announced that the RINOs were going to team up with Democrats to put this pipsqueak Speaker pro tem in permanently. Check it out.
To empower McHenry dead at this point?
Yeah, it won't be offered by Republicans based on Speaker-designate Jordan's announcement just moments ago. And I think that's a good thing. The House of Representatives needs a speaker, not a speaker light. I don't support using temporary powers for Mr. McHenry, and I'm glad that our arguments seem to be persuasive to our colleagues.
But Jordan seemed to back this as his next strategy to give himself the time to cobble together more votes. I mean, this is something he's backed.
Well, I like Jim Jordan. I'm voting for Jim Jordan, but I don't agree with him on every subject. And I certainly don't agree that what would be best for the House of Representatives is a temporary Speaker pro tem. I think we need to elect a Speaker. I think we've got great folks in our conference. I think Jim Jordan sits atop that list, and I look forward to voting for him again today.
And one last question for you, because we are live here right now. How icy was it for you in that room? I heard it got pretty intense.
Well, I'm not for everyone, as it turns out, and I have my detractors, but I'm an attorney by trade. I don't get emotional about the presentation of arguments and listening to other people's arguments. It doesn't affect how I think about people. I was there to make the substantive argument that Speaker Light is a bad idea, just like Bud Light. But I far prefer us to continue having votes going forward. And, you know, when I held out with Speaker McCarthy, we had goals. We had specific things we were fighting for. I think a reasonable question to those that are holding out and not voting for Jordan is, what are you fighting for? What are your goals? What are your objectives here other than just recalcitrance?
Bud Light. You've got to love it when even an ultra woke MSNBC reporter has to laugh when he equated McHenry, the pipsqueak temp speaker, with Bud Light. I mean, that's bringing the heat, gang. I mean, that's awesome. That's why we love Gaetz. When even an MSNBC reporter has to chuckle, you know the guy is on it. And he's absolutely right. What Gaetz just said there was representative of the fire that was lit under MAGA forces when they heard about the sellout deal. And I am ecstatic to announce that MAGA forces rose up and crushed it. Steve Bannon was just talking about this. MAGA forces rose up and absolutely crushed the McHenry sellout deal. And now Jordan's back in, as you heard this morning. Make no mistake, that uprising is what did it. The Gateway Pundits reporting on a massive grassroots campaign that's been launched to get Jim Jordan elected. Tens of thousands of patriots have been flooding Congress with phone calls, literally melting their phone lines in a show of support that congressional aides said they've never, ever seen in years. The office phone numbers of the various holdouts, the RINO filth that continue to plague our party, they were posted by a number of activists online, and particularly on X, formerly known as Twitter. And the political pressure that's being brought to bear on these holdouts has been enormous and, as you can see, effective, at least in terms of crushing the RINO establishment sellout and keeping Jim Jordan's bid for speakership going. And McHenry, that little pipsqueak, I shouldn't make fun of him. I'm only 5'5", so, but hey, since I'm little, I can't make fun of him, right? That little pipsqueak, Speaker Pro Tem McHenry, he's so livid over this. And he's so upset. He's so upset that MAGA's rising up against him, he's threatening to quit. Kid you not. The guy is so absurdly pathetic. He's threatening to quit. He's so full of himself. He's so full of his own swampiness. He can't even just fill in a ceremonial placeholder. So now we're going to have to see, starting now as we speak, quite literally, we're going to have to see how many rounds of votes Jordan's going to need to get speaker. I tip my hat to him. Speaker McCarthy, former Speaker McCarthy, is the one who's actually giving the nomination speech on the floor today. So it's an absurd, spectacle of kabuki theater to nominate Kevin McCarthy, as several of these RINO nuts did, when he's the one who's nominating and giving his full back to Jim Jordan. Again, the fundamental obstacle to all of this, as you guys know, the fundamental obstacle is the establishment Republican Party itself. Eric Matheny posted, I think, a brilliant tweet. He said, quote, "The Republican Party longs for the Bush era. They want to return to perpetual war and open borders." And we're going to find out why. And since they already have that with the Biden administration, well, then they're perfectly content losing elections while simply carrying on as a fundraising operation. That is bullseye, gang. That is bullseye. The reason why that tweet is so good is it exposes the fact that Republicans do not have to be in power. They don't have to be in the majority in order to accumulate power and affluence. You just have to be able to get elected, which means you just have to be able to dupe enough naive voters into thinking that you work for them, you represent them, their values, interests, and concerns, when in reality, once you get in D.C., once you're several thousand miles away from the constituents that voted you in, then you immediately govern in accordance with the wishes of your high-ticket donors. That's how every single one of these politicians go, from campaigning originally as middle to upper middle class income earners to eventually, after a couple of years in Congress, becoming multimillionaires. Literally in just a matter of a few years. Remember, politics today is an industry. Like law, like legal, the legal sphere. Politics is an industry. And what made the Bush era neocon paradigm so attractive for this new crop of Republicans was precisely because of how lucrative it was. That's how the Bushes came to power in Texas. The Bush family is a freaking New England family. They're a Connecticut, Maine family. They're New England to the core. I know George W. tried to, do that old Texas swagger. He tried to embrace it, but his dad is he's as waspy New England as they come. And he moved down to Texas with his money and then and his connections, Washington connections, and united Texas energy, Texas oil with Washington or Virginia-based military industry. That's how the Bushes came to power, and that's how they took over as well the Republican Party. The neocon Bushite paradigm is so attractive to Republicans because it's so lucrative. It's lucrative in terms of how it pleases business owners who get cheap labor from open borders and thereby maximizing their margins. And it's lucrative in terms of the military-industrial complex and the kickbacks they get from the massive, utterly massive military spending and foreign aid, just like we saw explicitly with Joe and Hunter in terms of the kickbacks in Ukraine. Politics is an industry. It's a business plan. Some people make their fortune investing. Some people make their fortune in Fortune 500 companies. Some people make their fortune as entrepreneurs. These guys make their fortunes in politics. The average net worth for a sitting congressman today, gang, is $1 million freaking dollars. The average net worth for a sitting senator is $3 million. Let that hit. This has got to hit you. Obviously, we're not only voting for millionaires. It's not only millionaires who run for Congress. Getting elected to Congress means that you just struck it rich. You just hit the lottery. You now become a millionaire. Just ask AOC. Check out her net worth right now. That's why they're running. They're not running to represent you and me. They're not running to save our country. They're not running to preserve and protect faith, family, and freedom. They're running to become rich and affluent. And they become rich and affluent through their various networks and connections that they get totally irrespective of whether or not they're the political party in the majority. Mitch McConnell does not have to be majority leader in order to have massive checks written out to him because of his influence, because of his networks. He just has to be in office. He just has to dupe enough Kentucky voters, who, by the way, are about to do it again and reelect a pathetic Democrat governor once again in November. They have an 80% Republican supermajority in their state legislature, but they're going to put in a good old boy Democrat as governor. I mean, it's just beyond ridiculous. And it goes a long way to explaining why they keep giving us this international staring contest winner, Mitch McConnell. Which, look, I started off fully complimenting, but I want to be fair as well. Let's be blunt. If what I'm saying is right, we're getting the government we deserve, right? Wasn't that Thomas Jefferson? The government you elect is the government you deserve. In other words, our leaders reflect us. As hard as that might be to hear, as I look in the mirror, the mess in Washington is a reflection of the mess that we ourselves contribute to. We need to get our own acts together. This is what Jordan Peterson, right, is always preaching. Clean your own room first. We need to get our own acts together. We need to make sure we're doing our part in this fight to preserve and protect faith, family, and freedom. And then we'll find leaders who are going to do the same. Courage is contagious. But as long as we offshore that preservation and protection, as long as we turn it over to the professional class, we're going to be overrun by charlatans. We're going to be overrun by people who see that as a business opportunity. And that's exactly what we're seeing with these vile RINO neocon sellouts who care more about borders 10,000 miles away than what's happening right here in our backyard. So we need to continue to put pressure on them. And that pressure, of course, ultimately is the threat at primarying their asses come next November. So if you're not willing to we got to tell them, if you're not willing to play along with the new MAGA, America First majority, the new patriot-dominated Republican Party, then you need to get your asses, these guys need to get their asses primaried out immediately. That's the only thing that's going to get their corruption corroded souls to do the right thing and vote in Jim Jordan as Speaker. Now, while all of this is going on, we got some astonishing developments in the polling for 2024. Gang, Trump, there's no way of putting it. Everyone is saying it now. Trump is absolutely running away with this. Wait until you see the latest, and I'm going to show you exactly why he's running away with this. But first, gang, every one of you needs to click on that link below right now and learn how to stick it to this ugly establishment by using their own corruption against them. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. Companies like BlackRock have been bribing corrupt politicians like Nancy Pelosi with insider trading secrets for decades now. They know a whole host of trading secrets that gives them an unfair advantage when picking stocks. But did you know that thanks to a little-known SEC database, guess what? We can have access to those very same secrets as well. We get to see what stocks these corporate CEOs are buying up in real time, and then we get to piggyback on our trades to gain the same advantage for ourselves that Pelosi and the crooks in D.C. have. My good friend Ross Givens has been tracking insider trading for years now, and his recommendations have led to investment returns of over 200%. Some have hit as high as nearly 1,500%, and now it's your turn. Click on that link below right now and learn how you too can learn to trade like Pelosi. Click on that link and learn how to gain an insider advantage for yourself today. All right, gang, let's see. Any latest news? Anything going on? Let's go. Just trying to go. All right, there's still yapping there in the halls of Congress. All right, take a look at this. This is the latest Morning Consult polling of battleground states. Check this out. In Georgia, Trump leads Biden by 5, 48 to 43. Keep in mind, all the polls in 2020 showed Biden leading Trump. Arizona, Trump leads Biden by 4, 47 to 43. Again, keep in mind, in 2020, all the polls showed Biden beating Trump in Arizona. In Wisconsin, where remember, several polls said he was going to win, Biden was going to win by 17 points. Trump is beating Biden by 2, 46-44. In Pennsylvania, Trump is beating Biden by 1, 46-45. In North Carolina, Trump's beating Biden by 4, 47 to 43. In Michigan, they're tied. And in Nevada, Biden is up by 3. This is the Trump-Biden Republican-Democrat polling average now in key swing states as we stand this moment. In North Carolina, Trump and the Republicans are up by an average of 5. In Georgia, Trump and the GOP are up by an average of 4. In Arizona, they're up by an average of 3. In Pennsylvania, they're up by nearly 1. According to the latest average, Trump now sits with a solid electoral vote lead of 280, 10 more than he needs to win the presidency. And according to the latest Emerson poll, Trump is crushing Biden in Pennsylvania by 9 points. 9 points in Pennsylvania, which means, if that's true, that Trump's going to most likely comparably crush Biden in Michigan and Wisconsin like he did in 2016. He's already got Ohio and Iowa wrapped up. Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania look like they're ready to follow as well. Remember, every candidate, presidential candidate that won both Florida and Ohio historically since 1865, every candidate 64, every candidate since that's won Florida and Ohio has won the general election except for 2 years, 1960 and 2020. 2 years, 2 of the most shenanigan-laced years, right? Everybody knows that everybody knows that LBJ helped Kennedy steal the election and in 1960, and we all know the shenanigans in 2020. So Trump is blowing Biden out of the water by 10 points in Ohio. He's blowing Biden out by 10 points in Florida. Now you bring in Wisconsin, Iowa, Michigan, Pennsylvania in the mix. it looks like this is going to be a landslide. And we know why. We can see precisely why Trump is running away with this, besides the utter dithering incompetence of Biden. It's because in the end, Trump has started to break away with independent voters. We talked about this in yesterday's video. Take a look at these various polls. They're all showing the exact same thing, just in different strengths, depending on their methodology and weighting. They're all corroborating one another. According to the Center for Politics poll, Trump beats Biden among independents by 2 points, 51 to 49. According to the latest NPR Morris poll, Trump beats Biden by 6 points, 49 to 43 among independents. The latest Fox poll, Trump trounces Biden by 8 points among independents, 48 to 40. According to the latest ABC Washington Post poll, Trump is beating Biden by 13 points among independents, 52 to 39. And the latest CBS poll, gang, Trump is beating Biden by an utterly humiliating 15 points, 57 to 42. Only Quinnipiac, which is notoriously bad, only Quinnipiac has Biden beating Trump 46-41. On average, Trump now has a commanding 7-point lead over Biden among independents. That means Biden is not winning this election. This election is officially over, with the vast majority of Republicans going with Trump, and with a 7-point lead among independents, it's over. And the key issue, as I'm sure you've guessed, the key issue for voters is the economy. I mean, the economy is it's crushing Biden. Voters in swing states trust Trump over Biden with the economy overwhelmingly by a full 14 points, by double digits. And that's not a deficit that Biden's going to be able to overcome. There's no indicator he will. Not with the economic forecasts coming in. We're still headed for a recession. In fact, young voters under 30, believe we're already in a recession. And no president has been successfully reelected if a recession occurred anytime during the last 2 years of their presidency. This is why we're seeing Rich Barris, the People's Pundit, doing some excellent polling. This is why we're seeing Trump is absolutely crushing it with the 30 and under vote. He's crushing it with non-white working class, and he's crushing it with the under 30 vote. Two voting constituencies that your traditional Republican always struggles with. And by the way, all the other candidates struggle with to this day. It's only Trump that's getting it. I don't know if you saw by the DeSantis. I don't even know why I'm reporting on it. DeSantis is in single digits now. DeSantis is consistently now out of double digits. He's fallen to single digits. So he's done. Stick a fork in him. This primary should be over. Everybody should be rallying around Trump and fighting back against this weaponized lawfare. How should we interpret these polls? And I know a lot of you, we should all be rightly skeptical of polls. But the key to understanding these polls, I think, the key to rightly interpreting all of them is to recognize the massive double-digit swing to Trump that every single one of these polls shows. So in all of these polls, it doesn't matter, ABC, NBC, Emerson, Harvard-Harris, Fox, The Economist, Quinnipiac, in every single one of these major polling outlets, every one to the poll, Trump never, ever came close to being tied with Biden in 2022. Forget taking the lead. Right? I pointed out that ABC Washington Post poll for Biden in Wisconsin in 2020 gave Biden a 17-point lead, for heaven's sakes. Trump never even came close to tying Biden in Wisconsin. This same ABC Washington Post polling in September of 2019 had Biden beating Trump by 15 freaking points. It's the same poll that now has Trump beating Biden by 10. The final polling for the ABC Washington Post had Biden up 12 in 2020. They consistently oversampled Democrats. And yet, despite that, they're showing Trump now with a double-digit lead. So that's the key to when looking at all of these polls today. When you compare all these polls with where Biden and Trump stood in October 2020, they've all swung by double digits in Trump's direction. Again, it doesn't matter which poll you're looking at, Morris, Emerson, Quinnipiac, CNN, they all show a double-digit swing to Trump, which means that he is in a better position to win the presidency today than he has ever been, including 2016, when he became the first Republican to win over 300 electoral votes in 30 years. No RINO neocon has even ever come close to doing that. So great news on several fronts for the strength of MAGA forces. We're fighting back against the swamp in D.C., all the while Trump is absolutely crushing Biden in the polls. So let's keep it up. This is obviously no time to even remotely get complacent. Let's get Jordan in as speaker and let's crush Biden in the general. Let's make it happen, gang. Over to you. But first,
I'll be back.
that's right, gang. He is back. It's time to show our support and celebrate the great return by clicking on the link below and getting your very own Trumpinator 2024 bobblehead in preparation for Donald Trump's glorious reascendance to the United States presidency. This collectible bobblehead from Proud Patriots is made with the highest quality material and really is a must-have for any Trump fan who wants to send some energy towards what's shaping up to be the most glorious political comeback in history. Now, don't wait. There are just a limited number of these collectibles, and you don't want to be caught paying way more later on eBay from someone who bought one now. So whatever you do, don't wait. Click on that link below right now and show your support for Trump 2024 today. I got mine. My little bobblehead. He's the best. And I got to say, I love the boxes that came out. I've kept the box, and I like to put them right there on top of the box. So it's just this great little mantelpiece here. So I'm going to leave them right there as I sip my coffee. Josh, what do we got for cues, man? Oh, Lord Niblick. Great to see you, my friend. Thank you. God bless, Dr. Steve. I know you focus on the political. My question is, as Israel is attacked by evil and talk of nuclear war is pervasive, does God's Spirit give you any hope to share to us? Yes. Thank you for that, Lord Niblick. Yeah, it is scary, especially with someone so incompetent in office. And then the speech last night just bizarrely doubled down on Ukraine. I forget, what was it? A third of the speech was devoted to Ukraine. Brit Hume loved it. Right. Brit Hume. I mean, he was, we were at the Phillies game and they got their red scarves that they swing at. He was doing this with bumbling by a big blue scarf there. I mean, Fox has just fallen so pathetic. Yeah, in the end, I do think cooler heads prevail. I do think their own self-preservation does kick in. It's happened thus far for a year and a half, over a year and a half with Russia and Ukraine. Things looked very scary. I mean, the rhetoric we've never heard in our lifetimes. I mean, at least since Khrushchev, we've not heard rhetoric like we were hearing coming out of Russia. And I think in terms of the threat of nuclear holocaust, we backed off from that. I think that's done. I think everyone is recognizing our position on what was happening there was right. There was no way Ukraine was going to win that. That NATO poked the bear and caused it. They only have themselves to blame. And it's done. I just think at this point, more the money that he's pushing is ultimately for the globalist class that's looking to collect on some investments or something. I don't know. But, they know the money's not going to do any good. So the money's just going to end up in people's pockets. That's what that's for. We'll have to see what happens with Israel. There are a number of actors that can get involved. Only Israel's a nuclear power at this point, unless Pakistan were to get involved, which I'm not seeing at this point. But Iran, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Egypt in the south, potentially because of the amount of humanitarian workers that they have there, and they have the pressure of Palestinians trying to get into the country, which they're blocking, which they don't want. That can all explode, and already Russia and China are they are deliberating on what what an appropriate response would be. So far, they are calling for a cessation of hostilities and a return to the negotiating table to implement a two-state solution. That's like Biden ironically reiterated the two-state solution last night. That's dead in the water as far as the Knesset is concerned. I mean, it's not even going to happen. I mean, Bibi Netanyahu's not even going to consider a two-state solution at this point. It's one state with Palestine, as it were, a single province within Israel. That's all they're going to. And from the rhetoric, they don't even want that. Looks like they're ready to just expel them from Israel. So yes, it's scary, but I do think cooler heads will prevail at this point. I don't think there'll be a draft, although there's always the threat of one. I think this is one of the reasons why young voters are moving to Trump. They are getting actively nervous. The draft Tim Pool was talking about that last night with Scott Pressler. I'll be interviewing Scott later on today. Scott's wonderful Republican activist, get out the vote campaign getter. It was amazing. And they were talking about last night that probably the guaranteed way for the Democrats to lose the 30 and under vote is to start talking about bringing back the draft. That's guaranteed. But because you've got so many stupid Republicans who are playing along with the uniparty, they can end up shooting themselves in the foot with that as well. So we'll see how it goes. But right now, I do think cooler heads will prevail. I think there is enormous international pressure for Israel to push back for right or for wrong. I'm not saying that's right, but there is a feeling that Israel has the majority opinion is Israel has an absolute right to defend itself, but that defense has to be proportionate. And the casualties now, particularly among civilians, are racking up to the point where they're questioning that proportionality. Again, we'll see where that goes, but that's where the geopolitical theater is on it right now. Thank you, Lord Nimlik, and thank you for the gift. Brooks Kelly, how many rhinos does it take to screw up a Congress? 22, apparently. Yeah, we could deal with a few. You're always going to have a few sneaking in, but that's great, Brooks. Franco, thank you, sir, for the gift. Have you heard anything about Dominio playing Attorney General Bowser in 2020 and 2021? No, I don't know anything about that, Franco. I'm sorry. I haven't caught up with that. Let me know a little more info on it if you could, and maybe I can comment on it. Maximilian, good to hear from you. How should the state administer society? Oh, that's neat. Well, Maximilian, you always come up with these big, cool questions. Very briefly, I got to be brief here. Cultural anthropologists argue that society is very much like a pyramid, right? Hence, the ancient pyramids and so forth are reflections of reality. That's how we see reality. Mountains are considered to be a beautiful image of the very nature of reality, in that the higher up you go in reality, the harder it is to see. We see things most clearly in front of us. The higher up we go into reality, the harder and harder it is to see. Hence, in Christ and the Mount of Transfiguration, it's just a blinding light. It's hard to make out anything specific within that vision. Nevertheless, though you're on the top and it's the hardest to see, when you're on the top, you get to see around you everything. You get the best view of the world around you by standing, as it were, above it, right? So I like to do Christmas trees are a great symbol of reality. The star at the top, and then you come down and it gets wider and wider and wider, and it moves out into specific things. And so historically, cultural anthropologists argue, and interestingly enough, the traditionalist school like René Guénon or Julius Evola, they argued for pretty much the same thing, though I don't think they used cultural anthropology. Cultural anthropology was only a couple of decades old when they were writing, but what they see is that society forms that kind of what you might call sacred pyramid. And the sacred pyramid is, as you know, Maximum, the sacred on top, the absolute, the unquestionable. Then you have to have a class of people that interpret that sacred definitively for people in some way, shape, or form. It could be decentralized, it could be centralized like the papacy or like the Moscow patriarch, decentralized like Hinduism and Brahmin priests or Shintoism, whatever it is. But there's got to be a priestly class that interprets authoritatively in some way, shape, or form the nature of that sacred. And then underneath, as it were, that priestly class, there's a political class that then, as Plato would say, seeks to, we talked about this on our Tuesday live stream, that seeks to implement the true, the good, and the beautiful, the eternal true, good, and beautiful into the whole of society. And then there's generally a military structure in place, a warrior class to defend it. They embody courage, which is considered the greatest virtue. And then a kind of like merchant class that creates the economy and so on. Then some kind of technocratic class, and they're going to be the artisans who create and who build and who develop the architecture and tap into the physics to build the society and the like. And then, of course, the family structure and community structure and the like. So that's basically the way a state administers society. The state kind of holds it all together as the state itself is certified and legitimated by the sacred and by the protectors and interpreters of the sacred. And every culture has a different way it works those things out. And I think we've talked about this in our Insiders Club, Maximum. But as you know, what makes globalism and what makes the secular modern world so strange and odd and perverse is it actually inverts that. That's something that the cultural anthropologist Roy Rappaport of the University of Michigan, who has actually since passed away, but that's one of the things he argued about in his last work, Ritual and Religion, the Making of Humanity, is that the modern era basically inverts that hierarchical pyramid-like structure of reality, because what it does is it puts the technocrats and the factives and the scientific and the empirical and even the merchant and the businessman on top. And it literally leaves the sacred completely forsaken. So it's very similar to what we see like in Genesis 3. So in Genesis 1, you have the hierarchy is God, right? The sacred God, man, woman, animal. But then in Genesis 3, when it all falls apart, it's inverted. There's a great inversion. It's animal. It's the serpent calling the shots. Then the woman is telling the man what to do, and God's totally forsaken. So what redemption is about is restoring the world back to its reality, its rights. And so it's no coincidence that our biggest problem right now is our war with reality. We have a political class that's run by lunatics who are literally at war. And that's ultimately what liberalism is. Liberalism ultimately seeks to emancipate us from reality, hence virtual reality, hence AI and the like. So there you go, Max. Thank you for the question as always. Zach, hold on, let me guess. Get something there for my friend Josh. Supporting anything other than anti-abortion, in my opinion, is an affront to God's truth. Sorry, Zach. Getting over. All right. So, Zach, thank you for the gift. Supporting anything other than anti-abortion, in my opinion, is an affront to God's truth. How you vote will also be judged, which is why I won't vote for Trump now. Whoa, Zach. No negotiating for me, even if America fails. I acknowledge I'm not perfect, Dr. Steve. Well, again, yes, I think you're in a radical minority there. I get, you're gonna vote your conscience. That's where your conscience is going. But I don't know how you vote against the man most responsible for overturning Roe v. Wade. I just don't. To me, I don't even know why anyone would get into politics with that kind of attitude. I mean, the guy delivered. He delivered where Bush failed. He delivered where Reagan failed. He delivered where both Bushes failed, I should say. He delivered with every single one of his appointees, all three. And then one of his appointees, I thought it was one of them. I might be wrong. Wrote the majority opinion. I mean, it's just Yeah, no, I'm sorry. It was Alito who wrote the majority opinion. But I mean, I don't know what to say other than that. It's disappointing to see. I get it, Zach. But you may want to immerse yourself a little bit more in the Christian tradition, at God's truth revealed in the Christian tradition, which is bigger than how you understand it. And I don't mean that in an insulting way. It's just, I get how you understand it, but Christians have been historically been a bit more pragmatic over this issue, precisely to get the end result that you want. But what you're doing is you're saying, well, if I don't get that end result, then screw it. And so, I hope you've made your peace getting, having your bones buried. How did I put it? Somebody put it, having your bones buried while we walk over those bones being marched to gulags because you were so faithful. With politics requires pragmatism. There's just no way around that. Politics requires pragmatism. Inside your church, absolutely. You got it. The church should not be teaching lies. Got it. But politics is not the church, dude. It's not the church. It's a different entity, and it operates differently. And you've got to work with that. And God draws straight lines with crooked sticks. And right now, Trump is saying, hey, I got rid of Roe v. Wade. Now let's negotiate the best pro-life measures we can get. Given that, you're not going to get full, absolute banning of abortion nationally. It's just not going to happen, dude. We don't have it because we don't have the spiritual maturity for it. The church doesn't have it, for God's sakes. Look at the mess the church is in. And you're going to blame Trump? Dude, get our own house in order first. Remove the log from your own eye. Not you personally, but we as Christians in this nation. We are pretty freaking screwed up. 40, 50 years of privatization of our faith that virtually 99% of our pastors have accepted. Aerobics class on Tuesday night. Bring your sneaks. See you there. Now open up your hymn. Let's all worship Jesus. Aerobics class. There you go. All right, Zach. But I'm with you. I love you, brother, and you know it. I honor you. Whatever your decision is in the end, I do honor you. All right. Jason, thank you, Stu, for the super sticker. Very appreciated. BW, Jim Jordan Gates, 2028. I think you're onto it, man. Jordan Gates. I love it. It's got a good ring to it. Hi, Q. Good to see you. Thank you for the pound, Sterling. As always, Jon Stewart show has been canceled. I saw that. Do you think the network found out that John was giving awards to Nazis at Disney World? Was he? He probably was. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, he's done. I don't even know why they tried to roll his old bones back. He's just so pathetic. Yeah, from a bygone era, those days are falling apart. Well, good to hear from you. Do you talk about what happened with Sidney Powell? That's a deep state stab in the back for Trump. I'm concerned. I'm not at all because she pled guilty to misdemeanors for a fine, and the RICO charge was dropped. And the RICO charge is precisely the one that they pinned Trump on. So it's. I know the left-wing media is trying to push it like, oh, she just sold Trump out. Oh, this is gonna be good. No, she didn't. She got a great plea deal, and she got the charge that Trump is being charged with, the RICO charge, the Racketeering Act. She got that dropped. How is that a victory? So they're all misdemeanors. That's it. So I don't think we have to worry about it. We'll see. I mean, obviously, but I don't think we have to worry about it. Thank you, Willows. BW, I don't think Jim is going to win. He lost again. Yeah, well, keep in mind, it took McCarthy 15 tries. We're at 3 now. So we're going to have to see what happens over the course of the next several days. So, but yeah, I mean, these RINOs are bitter. Dan Bongino said it best. Here, it's simple. Some Republicans are really Democrats, but no Democrats are really Republicans. Have a nice day. Yeah, there you go. I mean, there are just some Republicans that are just Democrats. Freaking primary them. Get rid of them. Stop sending us RINOs. Hey, South Carolina, stop sending us Lindsey Graham and Nikki Haley. Stop it. Utah, stop sending us Mittens Romney. Stop. Or shut up with your complaining and just eat it. We're the problem. We get the government we deserve. Stop buying into this nonsense. Enough. And if you're MAGA, do what Scott Presser's doing. Mobilize. You've got to mobilize the vote to vote these guys out and put in a real MAGA, bona fide MAGA force in there. There you go, BW. Raven Writings Desk, thank you for the gift. Good to hear from you again. Would you be able to explain the Sidney Powell case a little bit? I know MSM lies, but something is sounding off with you. Hopefully, I just did with what little I know about it from Jonathan Turley, my namesake. If you go to his Twitter feed, has a great breakdown of it. Several posts. He may even have it on his website. I think it's jonathanturley.com. But when all is said and done, the most serious charge, the major indictment was the RICO charge. That was dropped. And all she's now pleading guilty to are misdemeanors. And she does that so they want to see if she's got information that would be damaging to Trump. I don't know if she does or not. I don't know how close she got to Trump, quite honestly, other than being herself suggestive of doing things. And so it just does not seem to be that big of a deal. And that's certainly the way Turley explained it. So check out Jonathan Turley. Yeah, I mean, he's a legal expert. He'll give you the skinny for it. There you go, Reverend. Samuel Stafford, thank you for the gift, sir. Kevin Farrell, thank you for the gift. Every member of Congress needs to be audited twice a year to determine who the hell is on the corruption train with Pelosi. This needs to be a law. The whole of Congress is corrupt. Amen and amen. Again, it is a business model. It's an industry. Now, both parties, I think we're finding that out. I don't know how much it was, to be honest with you. I'd have to look at a study, but I don't know how much of an industry it was back in the 80s when Reagan was in office, or even in the 90s when Rush was at sort of the height of his influence, where we got the 1994 Gingrich Revolution. Those guys really seem to be ditto heads, right? The ditto head Congress, remember the 104th? Those guys really seem to be the real deal. They passed 9 of the 10 items on their contract with America, for the exception of term limits. They failed there. But they seem to be the real deal. They brought the heat. They put Clinton and the Democrats on their heels for literally for the next 6 years, even though Clinton was able to win re-election in 96 and even gain some seats in the House in the midterms of 98. Nevertheless, it paved the way for a George W. Bush victory, barely. Thank you, hanging chads, in 2020. And I think there was a time where we could be rightly naive in thinking, okay, these guys really do represent us. Those days are over. They're gone. These guys are crooks. Everyone, both the Democrats, but the Democrats are crooks in accordance with a globalist world. They love and embrace the globalist world, as do their constituents. Whereas the Republicans establishment love that globalist world, but they're voted in by constituents that despise it and are trying to push back against it. So hence the chaos within the Republican Party. So I agree with you 1,000%. They should be audited and they should be held to account. Thank you, Kevin. What are the reasons for, I'm sorry, Titan de Bronze, thank you for the gift. What are the reasons for a presidential election to be canceled? I don't know of any. I honestly don't know of any. That's the one, again, hope that I have that it won't be canceled. But we have, to my knowledge, we've never canceled one, right? Even during the height of the Civil War, we still had an election. Some states weren't allowed to vote, if I recall, or some candidates were taken off the ballot. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see where that goes. SOG, my friend, good friend, Steve. Given historical precedent, how long until another terror attack hits us? Do you think, as goes Israel, so goes America, and all? Also, what's the odds of Trump getting the speaker seat? Now, Trump seems to have backed off from the speaker seat, which I'm bummed at. I wanted to see that. I don't know if he was a little worried about these RINOs getting their revenge on him, and then having the embarrassment of losing a speaker vote. It just may be pure politics. But so I don't see any odds of Trump right now. He seems to distance himself, and he's right in the polls right now. I mean, it's just amazing. How long until another terror attack? I don't know. It's a scary thought. You know, you've got these school shootings that happen with, a maniac wanting to shoot up a location. What happens when you have a maniac who gets his hands on a dirty bomb and wants to blow up a city? I mean, it's scary stuff. So we stay in prayer, SOG. We stay in prayer, ask for God's blessing and protection and his continued intervention in keeping us safe each and every day. And just consider it an act of grace whenever that day we get to lie down on our beds and give him thanks for a day of protection. BW, thank you for the gift. Once people find out RFK believes in reparations and a gun ban, that should keep him from spoiling Trump. BW, I made the exact argument yesterday. I'm not worried about RFK at this point. He is. I thought a Trump-Kennedy ticket would be awesome at the height of sort of his populist appeal, but he is starting to move way to the left on some issues. And I don't know, he must have some polling. I don't know what he's got. But I think that's enough to nauseate any populist independent vote that would have gone to Trump that was thinking of going with him. So we'll see. But yes, I agree with you exactly, BW. John Bavender, thank you for the gift. Dr. Steve, do you think Israel will stay in Gaza after it destroys Hamas, or will leave the Palestinians to again be ruled by some terrorist group? Well, I think you answered your question. Yeah, I think for the time being, they're going to be staying in Gaza. There's going to be enormous, I'm just prepping you for it, there's going to be enormous international pressure for them to leave because Israel is seen, for right or for wrong, as a proxy state of the United States, and the rest of the world wants to keep United States influence in the Middle East to a minimum. And they do that by keeping Palestinian presence to its maximum. So, but right now, Israel, the Knesset, Netanyahu, they are in total war footing right now. They believe they got 9/11. They're responding. They didn't have to go halfway across the world to respond. They're going literally next door to respond, literally within their post 1967 borders. And so, no, I see them occupying Gaza for the foreseeable future, and then some international pressures could be brought to bear. They'll probably use that as a negotiation, stick, as it were, some leverage. We'll see how that develops. Again, just a horrific and terrible situation. Well, Lalos, what do you think about Canada's social media regulation? Yeah, they're insane. Yeah, they're absolutely insane, and it's a police state. This is Dinesh D'Souza's argument that you look at the scholars of police states, whether it's Orwell or whether it's Huxley, number of actual scholars who actually study authoritarian regimes. It has characteristics, and one of the characteristics is a very, very tightly regulated media in terms of what can be said about the regime, and Canada and liberalism, ironically, which really is progressivism, social, cultural Marxism, whatever you want to call it, is becoming increasingly totalitarian. It's exemplifying all the characteristics of it. Franco, good to hear from you again. Supposedly, according to SEC records, Attorney General Barr received money from okay, got it. I wasn't understanding. Got it. AG Barr received money from Dominion Systems 2020 and 2021. I wouldn't doubt it. They're all in bed together. I would not doubt it at all. And yes, isn't that interesting? Right. That makes a lot of sense on both ends. Right. Dominion wants, again, it worked the revolving door between the billionaire and the bureaucrat. Right. Dominion wants to grease the attorney general. The attorney general will be happy to comply with greasing. It just works both ways. Nick Johnson, the utopians thought just getting rid of Trump would save them. Instead, we're watching all their careers end one by one. I agree with 1,000%. What is it? Jacinda Ardern's party just fell in New Zealand. Australia voters just overwhelmingly rejected the wokeification of their constitution. We saw votes in Luxembourg that put in a solid right-wing coalition. We're seeing the ADF just continue. AFD, sorry. The Alternative for Deutschland continue to rise in Germany. They are on their way to becoming the number one party in that state. Giorgia Meloni continues to run a very successful nationalist populist coalition in Italy. We're seeing the nationalist populists succeed in coalition in Finland, in Sweden. We're seeing them rise in France. Hungary's holding it together. Poland is the one disappointment in all of this. And then we're seeing, of course, the great Louisiana flip that happened last weekend. And it wasn't just the governorship. They got a brand new state representative who flipped a blue seat in a plus eight Biden district, and he flipped it by 30 points. It was an absolute blowout. We're seeing the blue parts of Texas starting to turn red as Latinos are becoming more and more conservative. Yeah, you got it. Matt Gaetz said it best. Washington looks in disarray right now because the establishment class is losing control. That is a great way of understanding what's happening. Hence why they're just going to keep pushing back and try to assert themselves by voting against Jim Jordan. But we just got to keep fight. We have to be as tenacious in our fight as they are of theirs. Great point, Nick. Neil Smith, thank you. Cole RINO Sims, Idaho phone was put on record. Again, these are deep red places. We're talking people from Tennessee. We're talking from people from Idaho, people from Mississippi. These are deep red places. Find these rhinos in deep red districts and vote them the hell out. Get rid of them. Find out where they are. We should make that I can maybe talk to Scott Presser about that. We find out, identify. Look, if they're in a Biden district, if they're in a district that voted +4, +5 Biden, I get it. They're going to use that as an excuse. But if guys are in +20 Trump districts, get rid of them. And they're voting against Jordan, get rid of them. That one vote against Jordan should be enough. I don't care how they vote now. Get rid of them. Get rid of them. We can tell them we won't primary them and then primary them after they vote for Jordan. A little strategic deception there. I love coffee. Do you see what I mean? I have this beautiful mug My daughter's got me. And this is from, if I call it, the Poor Philosophers Club. And it's the history of art. It's a beautiful mug. I love to sip my coffee daily from it. All right. Curious Tiberius, best political commentary of our time. Moi, meh. Thank you, sir. That's very kind of you. And thank you so much for the gift. Oop, you passed over Zach. There you go. Zach. Zach, I think the one talked about abortion earlier. I won't sacrifice my faith in God for anything in this world. If we live for Christ, we shouldn't support anyone who supports anything other than God's truth. Let it all burn because God is sovereign over it all. Much love. Well, yeah, I love you too, Zach, but it does sound like you're ready to let things burn. So, MDE. Deep state seems to be setting Trump up for global war. This will force him to use keeping it alive. MIC, keeping it alive. The swamp's coffers flush with cash. Thoughts? I wish I knew what MIC is. Let's see. Sorry, Mr. Trump. Let me look that up real quick. You guys know I hate abbreviations. I don't do abbreviations. I don't know what it is. MIC. Abbrev. Perhaps MD, you can write back. Just give me a penny or something, whatever you need to throw in there to get a follow-up question in there, so you don't have to spend more money. But maybe you can give me a follow-up question so I know what you're talking, because I want to answer it, but I don't know what MIC is just off the top of my head. Well, los corrupt Zionists control Israel, not real Hebrews. Well, that is the other argument. That's the other side of it. It's not very popular here in the States. The States tends to be very, very, very pro Israel. That's the sentiment here. But the concern that you see outside of the West in general is a concern that Israel is simply a proxy for Western globalist power when all is said and done. And we're not going to change that opinion. That opinion is rock solid in probably the vast majority of the rest of the world outside of the West. So this is the reality of dealing with this very, very, very volatile part of the world. In many respects, the Israel-Palestine conflict is the unipolar, multipolar conflict in microcosm. So it's what makes it very, very dangerous stuff. So I know some people would not care for what Wolalos just said there, but that is a very prevalent opinion around the world. And it is going to impact the way the world responds to this. And I think we have to make sure we understand it and respond in a way so as to minimize the collateral damage of this conflict. Video Sentinel, thank you for that gift. Very kind of you. Servant of God also talked to Clay Clark about Vivek. He's done a ton of digging into him, more than Hannity did. Yeah. You brought up the Hannity interview. You thought that probably did him in. We'll see. Did you hear he's even thinking of skipping Vivek's skipping the next debate, the third round debate that no one else is going to watch either. I don't know what that says. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on Vivek. Yeah. So SOJ, Servant of God, does not trust Vivek. He has definitely got his finger on him, and so yes, I will also remain. Well, I'm not as suspicious as you are, but I echo your suspicions given some of the things that he said and done in the past. Yes. Lord Niblick, thank you for your thoughts regarding world events. Also, Jesus bless all my brothers and sisters here trying to find truth. Love you all. Amen, Lord Niblick. Amen. Christ is King. Amen. SOG, also for Zach too, do not be like Jonah. God has no issue making a whale swallow you to make a point. That's pretty good, a servant of God. Yeah, an all or nothing kind of thing, right? Yeah, with via Jonah. Yeah, that's very interesting. I like that. That's a good analogy. So that's a nice moral imagination going on there. Yeah, Zach seemed like he was pretty set. So Stephen Kahn, hey Stephen, good to hear from you. Cat Turd for speaker, amen. I love that. Cat Turd's probably my favorite Twitter account. I love Cat Turd. I mean, he's poignant, he's insightful, and he is a blast. He is funny. And that's it. All right. I'm sorry I couldn't answer that one question. I just didn't know what the abbreviation was in the end. But yes, they are making a mess for Trump. And but that mess is happening, I would argue, ultimately because they're relying on old, outdated globalist structures to keep the peace and maintain world order when the world order is now incommensurate with those structures. So they're not working. So you're seeing this unraveling of the world. All right, again, we'll keep abreast of the latest of what's going on with Jim Jordan. Keep the pressure up. Call all those representatives. Make sure they know you want Jordan as your speaker and not some rhino snake that they bring in with the Democrats. Love you guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Hug those you love. Pray, pray, pray. And I'll see you in a couple of days.